So I have a little confession to make. Oh no, did I lose my place? Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. Today's video we're going to do something a little bit different because I had this idea of doing a readathon. So I used to do these when I was a kid where I would basically binge read a ton of books that I borrowed from the library, and I want to try it again, but this time as an adult with a job and other responsibilities, just to see how many books I can actually get through. And if you can hear Rose scratching, that's what that sound is. I have my list right here. I actually have 4 books that are due in the next week and a half. So my goal is to finish those books before I have to return them so I don't have to renew them. So to meet that goal, I think I need to read at least an hour every single day, if not more. I think an hour is probably a good place to start. I'm gonna check in with everybody over the next 2 weeks just to update you on my progress, but I'm excited for this challenge. I used to do readathons when I was young. I remember borrowing tons of books from the library, as many as like 20 at a time, and then staying up all night long reading them. So I'm not gonna be staying up all night long because I do have work in the morning and I need to be a functioning person. And I should probably tell you what the books are. I have some good variety here. Parable of the Sower, I think, is science fiction. All We Were Promised is a historical fiction. What the River Knows is a YA fantasy, and Yours Truly is a romance. So I have some options. I'm actually reading A Short Walk Through a Wide World, and I think oh no, did I lose my place? I had my bookmark in here and I don't know what happened to it. Don't you guys just hate it when you accidentally lose your place in a book? Fortunately, I was reading this last night, so I should be able to remember. I'm on chapter 29 of this book, which is about maybe a third finished with it. So my goal over the next maybe 4 days, maybe 3 days, will be to finish this book and then start reading Parable of the Sower. I don't know how I'm gonna do with this challenge. I hope I complete this challenge, but if I don't, that's okay, but I'm gonna try my best. Before we start reading, I wanted to show you all this new lamp that I got. I think it's so pretty and it just adds a really nice cozy vibe to my reading space. And I also got this light here and it changes colors. You can change it to like red, blue, green, yellow. Purple is my favorite color, so it's probably gonna be purple most of the time, but I was thinking it would be kind of fun to change the colors according to like the mood or the book that I'm reading. In this case, this book actually has blue for the cover, and I know blue isn't a mood, but I think it'd be kind of cute if this was blue. Actually, let me change it. Ta-da! What do you guys think? It's a vibe, right? It matches. Get my handy dandy book stand out. I love hardcovers, but they don't love me back because they hurt my hands. So I use this book stand because it just makes it so much easier for me to read. So right now it is 8:51. So I have to get ready for bed in the next hour or so. So I'm gonna read for an hour. I'll probably set a timer and I'll check back in with you all after the hour is over just to see how far I've gotten. Right now I'm on page 129. I don't like to speed read. I really like to take in what's happening, and sometimes I have to reread a passage just to make sense of what's going on. So I'm not trying to speed read or anything. I really want to make sure I'm immersed in the story, and I'm not a super fast reader. I would say I'm like a average reader, so we'll just see how many pages I get through. So it's almost 9:50. I've been reading for almost an hour now, but I think I'm gonna wrap it up because I do have work tomorrow morning. I just finished up chapter 36, and so now I'm on page 168. I think I started on page 129, but I don't remember. I think I'm gonna start keeping track of pages that I read so that I don't forget them. And at this rate, I probably do need to read a little bit longer than an hour a day if I plan on finishing all of those books. I think tomorrow I'm going to try to read for an hour and a half. We'll see, no promises there, but I will do my best, and I'll check in with you guys later. Good night! I have a little confession to make. I fully intended to take you all along with me as I was reading throughout the week, but I just got really busy and I haven't recorded since the last part. My husband got back from his overseas trip and then we had lots of errands to do, and I just haven't gotten around to recording, but that's okay because we can just pick right back up where we left off, and I'm going to talk to you all about all the books that I managed to read in the past week. So I definitely did not finish all the books that I was trying to finish, so I'm gonna have to return those books to the library today. But I did finish these 2 books. So I read A Short Walk Through a Wide World with you all in my last vlog, and even though it started off pretty good, I had really high hopes for it, I enjoyed it. By the time I finished this book, I was left feeling disappointed, confused, and just a little let down. So this is described as a cross between The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue and The Midnight Library, and I've read both of those books and I definitely preferred The Midnight Library over Addie LaRue. I didn't like The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I guess I'm not surprised then that I didn't really enjoy this book as much either. So this book is about a young girl who has a mysterious condition where if she stays in one place for too long, she gets really, really ill, she is in extreme pain, and the only thing that helps her feel better is if she is on the move. So she has to leave her home at a very young age. I think she's 9 when she has to start her trek around the world. And even though it had promise, the book just meandered through, and there were just so many different characters, so many different settings, that once I finally started to get the hang of each place, she had to leave again and start this whole new journey. And I still don't understand why she has this condition. It was never revealed in the story. This book just left a lot of question marks for me, and unfortunately, I just don't think I would recommend this to somebody. I almost didn't finish it, but I trekked through because I just wanted to find out what happened. The next book that I finished is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, and this is a romance, and I haven't had the best luck with romance lately. But this book was easily one of the best romances that I have read all year, so I definitely would recommend this if you are a fan of romance. I think it was a really fun, lighthearted read, and they tackled some deeper issues like mental health, for example, but the author did a really great job of touching on those topics while still keeping it pretty lighthearted and entertaining. This book is about 2 doctors who fall in love. So we meet Brianna, who's our main protagonist, and she is an ER doctor going through a really messy divorce. And her younger brother has an autoimmune disorder, so he's an end-stage renal failure. So her whole world has been pretty much turned upside down over the last year. So she's definitely going through it. And the other protagonist is Jacob, who is her love interest, and he is also an ER doctor. He recently moved to the hospital that Brianna works at. He was trying to get away from the drama with his ex-girlfriend, and he also experiences clinical anxiety, so he's also having a hard time. And when the characters first meet each other, they do not get along, so it definitely starts off with a enemies to lovers type of trope. But we later find out that Jacob is a match for Brianna's younger brother, so he decides to donate his kidney to her brother. So overall, this was a really light and easy read, and I'm glad that I picked it up, and I would definitely read more books by Abby Jimenez if I'm ever in the mood for romance. Those are all of the books that I've read in the past week, and I also have some unboxing to do. I do have some book mail that I want to show you all, and I'm gonna start annotating the book that I'm reading with my book club, which is The Collected Regrets of Clover. I don't typically annotate all of my fiction books, but I wanted to give it a try. I've been watching a couple of videos and I have some ideas about how I want to do it. So I have 3 new books to show you all today. First book I want to talk to you all about today is Disability Visibility, and this is a collection of short essays written by people with various disabilities. This was edited by Alice Wong, who is an Asian American disabilities rights activist. She's also the founder of the Disability Visibility Project, and if you're interested in reading more and learning more about the Disability Visibility Project, I'll link their website in my description box below so you can check that out. I've worked with people with various disabilities, worked with children, teenagers, adults. I'm always looking for new insights and resources that I can use to help me in my practice. So I'm really hoping that I can get some new insight from reading this book. So there's also another book called Disability Intimacy, and it's also a collection of short stories focusing more on intimate relationships, and I also want to get my hands on that one. But I am really happy that I picked this one up. I feel like this is going to be a perfect one to annotate and just take my time going through to reflect on the different stories that are shared in here. So this next book I want to show you all is The Familiar, and this was a book of the month pick, and I just love the cover of this book. It's giving me really spooky vibes. So there's like a scorpion on here coming out of her really beautiful sleeve. It just looks so ornate, and I also love the typography on here as well. I think it just really would look wonderful on a bookshelf, especially in the fall or in October specifically. I think this would be a perfect one if you want to decorate your shelves to look a little bit spooky and get into the holiday spirit a little bit. So this is a historical fantasy which is set during the Spanish Golden Age, and it follows the story of a young girl who has magical powers, but she doesn't really use her powers much other than to help her as she's working in the kitchen. But as people find out about her powers, she gets plunged into this dangerous world of magic where she has to learn how to protect herself, and she finds an unlikely ally with an immortal familiar, but he also has some secrets that he's hiding, and that's pretty much all I know about this novel. I think she also wrote Six of Crows, which is on my TBR. I haven't read it yet. This sounds like such a fantastical and epic fantasy, so I'm really excited to read this one. It kind of sounds like it would be perfect for Halloween, so I feel like I'm gonna save this one for fall, but we'll see. So the last book that I got from Book of the Month is Dragonfruit. This cover is so gorgeous. I feel like it's giving me Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen, Mother of Dragons, and Moana crossover vibes. So I feel like this is going to be perfect for me because I loved Game of Thrones, I love dragons, I love fantasy. So this book follows the story of young Leigh, who was exiled from her home because her father stole sea dragon eggs, which are also known as dragon fruit in this story. So she spends her early life in exile, observing and studying the sea dragons. Meanwhile, there's also a succession crisis. The reigning queen has fallen ill, and unfortunately she can't pass off the crown to her son because it's a matriarchal society. So if he wants to ascend the throne, then he has to either marry somebody or he has to find a cure for his mother. But when Leigh returns from exile, the two friends quickly reconnect and work together to find the sea dragon eggs. However, they also have enemies who are looking for these rare sea dragon eggs as well. I feel like this would be such a perfect vacation read. I can really imagine reading this somewhere where it's warm and maybe I'm laying on a beach or by the pool or something. So these are my newest books and I am looking forward to reading these. But I do have another thing I want to do today. I started reading The Collected Regrets of Clover, which is a book club pick this month. My friend chose it. I did talk about this book in my physical TBR video, so if you haven't seen that video yet or you'd like to see that video, I'll put a link up in one of the corners so that you can check it out. The Collected Regrets of Clover follows the story of a death doula in New York where she helps other people transition to the end of their life. She has an unexpected opportunity to take a road trip where she'll discover what it truly means to live. I think the story just sounds so beautiful and I'm really looking forward to annotating it. I do annotate my nonfiction books, but I don't really annotate my fiction books. I've been watching a couple of videos on how to annotate your fiction books, and so far what I've learned is that there really is no like right or wrong way to annotate your books. It's just a way for you to engage with them in a way that resonates with you. I don't really have a plan going into this other than I'm going to highlight things that I think are interesting and then go back and underline some things. I also have never written in a fiction book before. I've always been a little afraid to mark up my novels, so I'm gonna have to get over that fear today. I've seen so many people with these beautifully annotated books all over social media, and I'm always thinking to myself, like, wouldn't it be so wonderful to have an annotated book myself? But then I think about writing or highlighting in my actual books and I back out last minute because I just want to keep them looking so pristine. But sometimes you have to do new things and challenge yourself and do something that's uncomfortable to grow. I know this isn't like a life or death situation, it's just annotating a book, but it's a pretty big deal to me. So I'm just glad that you're all here with me today to give me a little bit of courage to do this, and we'll just see how it turns out. Maybe I'll love it, maybe I won't, but what if I like it and I discovered a new thing that I enjoy doing? I mean, that's the beauty of trying new things, right? You never really know until you give it a try. So today, that's what we're gonna be doing. But before we do that, I do wanna grab a cup of tea because it is kind of gloomy outside. It's been raining and it's a little bit cold. So I feel like tea is gonna be a really nice pick-me-up. I'm back with my cup of tea and I wanted to show you all this mug that I got. I think it's so cute with the embossed daisy and the embossed hearts on here. And I don't have any loose leaf tea right now, so a tea bag will do. I usually like having loose leaf tea better. I feel like it tastes just a little bit more fresh. And the only tea bag that I actually had was a sore throat tea. So I think it's like licorice and something else. Don't you guys just love drinking hot tea on a cold day? I mean, I would also enjoy drinking hot cocoa or coffee, but it's a little bit too late in the afternoon for me to drink caffeine. My favorite place to get loose leaf tea is actually from Tea Fort or Tea Forte. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce them, but I'm looking for some new loose leaf teas to try. So do you guys have a favorite tea recommendation for me or a favorite tea flavor? Please let me know in the comments below and I'd love to check them out. I think my all-time favorite is English breakfast, which is just a nice classic tea, but I'm willing to try other types of tea as well. I'm not a huge fan of fruity tea, but I'm willing to give it a try if you really like it. So please let me know what you guys like drinking. And now that I've had my little pick-me-up, we can start annotating, and I'm nervous but also excited at the same time. So we'll see how this turns out.
이건 사랑 맞아. 아무리 생각해도 좋은 친구로 난 못 넘겠어. 왜 달이 슬퍼 보이는 걸까? 이건 사랑인 것 같아.
I did it! So I finally annotated my very first book. I really enjoyed annotating this so far. At first I was a little bit nervous to mark it up, but once I got into it, I started feeling more comfortable and really getting into a almost calm and meditative state. It felt like I was journaling, but instead of journaling with just my own thoughts, I actually had a story to engage with and think about the topics that were in this book and how they resonated with me and my life. So that was really, really fun. And so far, I'm really loving this book. I really can't imagine what Clover has to go through on her day-to-day basis. And even though I work in healthcare too, I am pretty far removed from the acute setting. I work with people in an outpatient setting, so I don't really come across people who are at the end stage of their life anymore. But when I was working in an inpatient setting and I was working with people who were very ill, I do remember how emotionally taxing that was. I love how Clover is describing her experience, that even though it is emotionally draining to do this job, she also sees it as a privilege of spending the last moments with somebody's life. And Clover seems to me like she's just an angel on earth. I think it's such a gift to be able to spend those last minutes with somebody, letting them know that they're not alone. And so far it's been very touching. I've only read about 3 or 4 chapters, so these are the things that I'm keeping track of so far. I'm tracking Clover's personality because I was really curious about the type of person who would be drawn to this job and the types of qualities or skills that you would need in order to be good at this. And some other things I'm noticing that Clover talks about frequently are themes of loneliness, specifically with living in such a big city like New York. And even though you're surrounded by thousands of people, if not more, you can still feel alone. So she does allude to that quite frequently in this novel. And some other things that I noticed as well were recurring themes of grief. So Clover lost her grandfather when she was a young girl, and I believe she was very close to him. So even though she's an adult now, I think she's 35, she still in some ways mourns him and still experiences that grief. I'm also paying attention to themes of compassion in this book. Clover so beautifully and eloquently talks about how important it is to have compassion in her line of work. There is a quote in here that I want to share that I think beautifully exemplifies what compassion means, and I want to read it to you all. The most important thing is never to look away from someone's pain. Giving someone the chance to be seen at their most vulnerable is much more healing than any words, and it was my honor to do that, to look them in the eye and acknowledge their hurt, to let it exist undiluted, even when the sadness was overwhelming, even when my heart was breaking for them. I remember reading this and thinking about how powerful this observation was and how important it is to practice that in my own line of work as a healthcare practitioner, as well as just people in my life, and understanding that sometimes the best thing you can do when somebody is going through a tough time is to just be there for them. So I really resonated with that, and that's definitely a lesson that I want to carry with me. I'm also very curious to know if that quote resonated with you, and if it did, what about it resonated with you. I would really love to hear from you because I was just so touched by that. So I'm gonna end the vlog right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed coming along with me as I showed you all of the books that I read, all of the books that I got, as well as annotating my very first fiction book by writing in it. I had a lot of fun filming this, and if you guys want to see more from me, please like, comment, and consider subscribing to my channel. And I also made a free reading journal if you guys want to check that out. It's going to be in my description box down below. And as always, take care of yourselves because you deserve it, and I'll see you in my next video.